In the last video, we examined basic join types in Tableau. Tableau is pretty powerful, as you've seen in our previous examples, and when it comes to join types, it's no different. So let's take a look at a way in which we can join data when our data isn't exactly in the way we want it. Not every sheet that we get will be ordered in a way that we want. And sometimes we have to do some fixing or some changing, and Tableau can help you with that. So in this example, I'll connect to our data source, which I've labeled calculated join. We see two sheets in the calculated join, and if we take a quick look at each one, we see a list is class performance. So this is a list of students and their class performance across a series of exams in their midterm. Okay. We have their exit scores in another sheet. Exit scores in this sheet are, there was a special exit exam given to all students, and these were the exit scores they scored out of a total of 100. But you'll notice there's a key difference between these two sheets other than the fact they contain exam scores. Notice how the names are arranged in this table or this sheet. We see the first name column and the last name column here. But we also see in class performance, first and last name are under a column called name. Tableau is going to have a hard time with that. And so when we join our table, because what we'd like to do ultimately is a couple of things. First, we want to make sure that our exit scores can be attached into our visualization of class performance so we can chart it. And so we need to join these tables. And then we'd also like to see what the class average was in this sheet. So first we need to join our data. So we can do that here. And in this case, I've made it simple in that all of the students in this list are the same number as all the students in the other list. So we don't have to worry about null values coming over. So in this sheet, this table, name here is all in one column or one cell. In our exit scores, it's in two cells. And what we need to do is create a join calculation. So in our data source, we want name, but in our exit scores, we want our join calculation. So we go here, and instead of selecting first name, last name, see, it won't let us select those because Tableau doesn't understand it. We create join calculation. And Tableau, as I said, is powerful and comes up with a window in which we can create our join calculation. So in this window, we see that there are a number of pre-made calculations, and I've provided a link to a list as to what all of these are. You're not going to learn all of them right now. What I would suggest is keeping a list of them, because you are going to use some of them more than others, but it's nice to have a reference list. They're very similar to the same types of functions that you have available to you in a spreadsheet like Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. And in this case, what we want to do is create a simple calculation that combines first name and last name into one new join column, so that way the name can match this new join column with the same data. So what we want to do is we select first name as our So we want to add first name and last name. So I start by putting first name in these brackets. And then end bracket. You'll see it's turned orange, and so far the calculation is valid. Now I want to add this or concatenate it. So here I go plus. Now I know I want a space between first name and last name, because if I don't add a space, it's going to put the names together with no space in between, and that will not match the name column. So we have to add plus, and I put a space, and then I go quote, space, quote. So what that is doing is actually adding a space in between first name and last name. What's in the quotes will be printed, and that's the space. Sounds silly, but that's how that works. And then I put a bracket, and I go last name. So my little checker tells me my calculation is valid. Now, don't worry about naming this new join calculation. It's going to pop up right in there. Now watch. Now I click OK. Notice what we have is that these were able to be joined. So Barney Fife matches with Barney Fife. Andy Mayberry with Andy Mayberry, Ralph Cremden, and so on. So that's the simplest way you can use a join calculation in Tableau. Notice that it's a calculated join. Now I used an inner join, which, remember, it only takes values that match on the left table and the right table. But since I told you in advance, right, that all of the columns matched, I just needed to create that calculated join to tell Tableau, because it's a computer, that those names were all the same, even though one was split into two columns, one was in one column. That's the purpose of this example. So inner join is okay here. If we used full outer, we would have had the same result. Right, the same result. Left, the same result. Inner, the same result. So in this case, and by the way, just to remind you, the default join that's used by Tableau is inner join. So notice that is the default. So we'll always want to start with inner join. If you want a different join, you have to tell it by clicking on it. And then you'll select the columns that should be the join column. Okay? So the first part's done. We've joined our columns, right? So my TV and radio stars and their exam scores are together. Now I need to go to a sheet. Notice that your join calculation is not listed in here. Okay? It's not something that you can use in your visual, but it's there. But now let's say I want to take name. So we'll use name. We want that as a dimension in rows. Okay. And now for dimensions, let's say I don't want every exam score, or even if I do, we can say, all right, measures wise for columns, I want exam 1, exam 2, exam 3, exam 4, midterm, and exit exam scores. Okay, and this visual is a little unwieldy. Is there a better way to do this? Could we try something else? Wow, it'd be great if we could figure something else out. In fact, how about this? Maybe we don't want all of the individual exam scores. Maybe we want the class average to see how that correlated to the exit exam score. Easy enough. I'll just click the undo because that goes pretty rapidly. So in this case, I want to make another calculated field. So here, what I want to do is go up to my menu bar to analysis, and I create calculated field. In my calculated field box, this window that pops up, what I want to do is add these scores together, divide them by the number of exams or in the midterm, and that can produce the average, and then I have to tell Tableau that it's an average. So in this calculated field, I'm going to start with, because I have to remember my order of operations, exam 1 plus exam 2 plus exam 3 plus exam 4 plus exam 5, or the midterm. Okay. Now I close parentheses because I want their total, and I have a couple of ways of now getting the class average. If I know the total points available per exam, by the way, everything's out of 100 points, I could divide it by 500 and then multiply that by 100 to get the percentage out of 100, or I could just divide it by 5 because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items in the list to see what the average performance is. And so across total, or what the class average is, I go here. Now, calculation 1, I forgot to name it. It just says calculation 1. You'll see it appear as a measure here. So what I really need to do is go back to analysis, reopen my calculated field thing, say edit calculated field, calculation 1, and here what I want to do is name it. And this, well, I'll say is class averages. Okay, now I take class average, notice it's listed as a number, and I put that in the column bar. And here I go. Notice my class average. I have class average calculated. So now I have my class averages in my calculated field, and I want to compare them to the exit exam scores. So I can put those in columns as well. Let's say I want to switch these and see how that visualization goes. Suppose we were to look at try to find a better visualization like a line. So we need 0 or more dimensions, 1 or more measures. Okay, so let's try this. We'll take these all off the stage. And I want to try some sort of line. Okay, so I look at my measure. And what I want for my measure is name. Actually, another one I could do is just go class averages. Go to show me and see. And go to name and class averages. Oh, well, look at that. Some other visuals pop up, like box and whisker plots. And I also want exit exam score in here. You can try this. So the exit exam score is here. And the class average is there. So if we were to look using this recommendation, what we see is that, wow, the exit exam score, and I don't want the exit exam score average here. Number. Okay. So in this chart, what we can see is Alice, Andy, Barney, Caroline. When we see here, their class average is 89 for Alice, and that correlates to here. And her exit exam score was 72. So her exit exam score was lower than her class average. And we can see that we have a few people who've scored well above, right? So right here, looks like Barney Fife, Andy Mayberry. So something's going on in the Mayberry campus. But here, in Lamont Cranston and Margot Lane, the New York campus, we have them far exceeding. And then here in Walnut Grove, we have a few people who have fallen below. We can also order this to show by class average, right? Or name. And so that's another way of visualizing this. But the real takeaway here is I'm not looking for the most beautiful visual yet. What we're looking at here is actually to get your feet wet in using calculated joins and then using the very basics of creating a calculated field on top of that. So we could always go for a different visual. We could go like this. And then we can go like this. And then we could also include something like class averages. No, we have class averages. We want exit exam score in rows as well. We could try that. Exit exam score just bumped everyone out. And I can put in the class averages here. So that's another way of visualizing it. We can see how each person scored. And there's another way of doing it. So we can put them side by side. And that might be the best way of doing it. The class averages on the left, the exit exam scores on the right. And there you go. So in any case, at this point in your Tableau experience, what I'd prefer that you do is play around with it a little bit as you're doing these exercises and see what you can come up with. The only way you're going to get very comfortable with this is taking it and playing with it a little. And here's a moment for you to do that. So in any case, you should now know how to join tabular data in Tableau. You should also now know how to join data when you, for example, have one table that may have some of the data that you want, but needs to be manipulated a little bit in order to join it properly using a calculated join.